Alright my friends, welcome to another video lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be building your basic bin structure inside Premiere Pro. Now, it's important to keep everything neat and clean at both the file level and inside the software. So we're going to head over to the project panel and we're going to create the bin structure to house all of our creative assets in that organized fashion. And we're going to use our folder structure at the file level as inspiration to do this. We'll loosely mirror what we've done there. So we want to start by creating bins. But before we do that, we want to make sure we're in the proper view inside the project panel to do that. So we want to head down to this area right here at the bottom of the panel, and you can see we've got a few different controls here. You can see we can switch to list view, icon view, freeform view. We've got a slider to change the size of the icons and thumbnails, and then we've got a sort button too. We want to make sure that we're in list view right here. Usually, by default, Premiere will open for the first time in icon view. You want to switch this to list view for the purposes of this class. Alright, and now we'll begin creating bins. And there are a couple different ways to do that. First, we'll start with the New Bin button here. Yes, it looks like a folder, but it is actually a bin, so please refer to it that way. If you click that button, a new bin is created. And you can see it's got the default name bin. We're actually going to name this bin GFX, just like we did at the file level. Now, before creating our next bin, we want to make sure that we click out of that field so that it is not selected, not highlighted. Because if it is, and we create another bin, it will actually create a bin inside GFX. You can see it's stored inside. We don't want that. So we're going to make sure we've clicked off of GFX before creating our next bin, which we're going to call Media. Clicking off of that, and now you can see these are not in alphabetical order. We can change that by going up to the name bar here, clicking that, and you can see that we can arrange them in ascending or descending order. Next, we're going to create our third bin, but we're going to do that using a keyboard shortcut, Command or Control B. And we're going to name that bin MX for music. And then our fourth bin, again, Command or Control B, will be called SFX. Notice these are in all caps, just like we did at the file level. Now you may also notice that I skipped over a few of the folders at the file level: Docs, Outputs, and Project. We don't have a Docs bin because you don't normally edit with text-based material, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets, things of that nature. Generally not editing material. So we don't need a Docs bin. Outputs is excluded because outputs is where our finished products go, and we don't normally bring those back into the program and edit with them. And then finally, Project. We don't have a project bin because, well, this is the project. But we are going to have one bin that we don't have as a folder at the file level, and that is the SEQ bin. And that stands for sequence. The SEQ bin is where you will store your sequences. Your sequences are created when you edit together clips in your timeline by either dragging media assets into it from your project or source panels, or editing from the source panel to the timeline panel. Once you have clips in there, you will see a series of tracks, video and audio, that make up your sequence. And all of your sequences that you edit with in the timeline are stored in your sequence bin here. So this is the standard bin structure that I would like you to use in this class. If at some point you want to create sub-bins to further organize assets within these, feel free to do so. But you must have these main 5 bins for the purposes of this course. All right, my friends, that does it for another video lesson. I'll see you again in the next one.